All right, let's get into it. Today, we are cracking the code on a seriously cool tool for building software better, the Cucumber feature file. You'll see how this one simple text file acts like a universal translator, building this perfect bridge between the business folks, the developers, and the testers.
So here's the age-old problem in software, right? How do you get everyone on the same page? You've got business experts talking about market needs, developers talking about code, and testers talking about, well, test cases. It's this classic communication gap, and it's exactly what behavior-driven development, or BDD, was designed to fix. And its secret weapon? A language called Gherkin. So what on earth is Gherkin? Well, don't worry, it's not some crazy new programming language you have to learn. Nope. It's just a super simple set of keywords that lets you describe how software should behave in a way that's logical and totally readable. But here's its real superpower. It's doing two jobs at once. It creates a structured test that can be automated, and it serves as living project documentation that literally anyone can understand. That means fewer mistakes and way less rework.
Okay, let's think about our feature file like it's a blueprint for a piece of software. And you know, any good blueprint has to start with a solid foundation. These first few keywords we're going to look at, they define the whole structure and really set the stage for everything that comes after.
First things first, every blueprint needs a title, right? In Gherkin, that's the feature keyword. It always comes first, and it answers that one big question. What is this part of the application supposed to do? Something like feature user account login tells everybody right off the bat what all the tests in this file are about.
And here's a great little tip. You don't need a special keyword for the description. Any text you just type right between that feature line and the next keyword. That's it. That's your description. It is the perfect spot to add extra context, maybe some business rules, or any other important details.
Okay, now let's talk about background. Just imagine you've got 10 different tests you need to run on a user's account page. Well, for every single one of those tests, the user has to be logged in first. Now, instead of writing, given the user is logged in 10 different times, you just put it once in the background. Think of it as the common prep work for all the tests in this file.
But here is the really critical part to understand about how background works. It is not a one-and-done setup. Nope, its steps run again before each and every scenario in the file. And this is so important because it guarantees that every single test starts from the exact same clean slate. It prevents the result from one test accidentally messing with the next one.
So our blueprint's foundation is set. Now it's time to add the actual rooms, the tests themselves. Gherkin gives us two really powerful ways to do this. One for just a single test, and another for when you need to test a bunch of variations all at once. First up, we've got the scenario. This is your bread and butter, really. Each scenario is one separate test. It tells a single story, like scenario, successful login with valid credentials. It's a very concrete example of the feature in action, testing just one path from beginning to end.
But what happens if you need to test logging in with valid data, and also with invalid data, and maybe with an expired password? Writing a whole separate scenario for each of those would get super repetitive fast. And that is where Scenario Outline becomes a game changer. Instead of a single test, you create a template, and that template can be run over and over again with different data. It's the key to doing really efficient, data-driven testing.
So where does this scenario outline get its data from? Simple, from an examples table just like this one. Each row in this table represents one full run of your test template. So here, the scenario would run once using the data for user 1, and then it would start all over and run a second time using the data for user 2, plugging those values into the template each time.
So far, we've defined the what with our features and scenarios. Now we need to define the how, the actual steps of the test. And that brings us to the three most famous keywords in all of Gherkin: given, when, and then.
Given sets the stage. It tells us what the world looks like before we actually do anything. You can think of it as the starting condition, like given the user is on the login page.
Next up is when. This is the action. It's the one specific thing that happens, the interaction that we actually want to test. For example, when the user enters their username and password, this is the step that should trigger some kind of change in the system. And finally, then. This is the outcome, the moment of truth. This is our verification step, where we check if the action did what we expected it to do. For instance, then the user should be redirected to the dashboard. See how it forms a perfect little story? Given some context, when an action happens, then we expect a certain result.
Okay, so sometimes just one given, when, or then isn't quite enough to describe a full step. Gherkin gives us a few more key words to help our tests read more naturally, like a real sentence.
The most common one you're going to use is and. It just lets you chain steps together so they're easier to read. For example, when the user enters credentials and clicks the login button. The keyword but does basically the same thing, but it implies a contrast, like, then the user sees an error message, but is not logged in. To be honest, you won't see but used very often, but it's there if you need it for clarity.
And last, there's a little special wildcard, the star or asterisk. You can technically use it in place of any of the other step keywords. Now, you could write a whole test with just stars, but you'd totally lose that powerful storytelling ability of Gherkin. Sticking with given, when, and then gives your test a clear structure that makes its purpose obvious to anyone who reads it.
Okay, we've gathered all the pieces, we've defined all the sections. Now let's put it all together and take a look at our completed blueprint.
And here it is. Just look at how clear that is. The feature up top sets the goal. The background makes sure every test starts from the same place. And then our scenario tells a complete, logical story. When a user does this, and then does this, then this specific thing should happen. This isn't code. It's a clear, simple story that anyone on the team can read, understand, and agree on.
So, there you have it. Those are the essential keywords that make up a Cucumber feature file. It's an incredibly powerful tool for collaboration, for documentation, and for automation, all rolled into one. The only question left is, now that you know how to read the blueprint, what are you going to build with it?